sit still. Not because you are tired, but because movement has become your disguise. You rush from one thought to another, one plan to the next, one year into another, hoping motion itself will save you. It will not. Stillness is required now, not for comfort, but for clarity. Do not rush past this moment. Moments like this do not return easily. They are rare because they are heavy, and most people avoid weight. They prefer noise. They prefer distraction. They prefer anything that keeps them from facing themselves without escape. Do not look for inspiration. Inspiration is unreliable. It comes and goes without loyalty. Men who wait to feel inspired remain forever waiting, and do not hope to feel motivated. Motivation is a visitor, not a commander. It leaves the moment resistance appears. What you are about to hear is not meant to excite you. Excitement fades quickly. It rises fast and dies quietly. This is not that. It is meant to settle you, to slow your breathing, to make you aware of the weight of your own life, to press upon you until illusion can no longer stand. It is meant to remove the false comforts you have carried quietly for years. The belief that more time will help, that clarity will arrive later, that you will somehow become ready without deciding to be. Most lives are not ruined by catastrophe. They are not destroyed by sudden disaster or dramatic failure. They are wasted slowly, quietly, through repetition. Year after year, the calendar changes. Numbers turn. Dates reset. The promises change. The resolutions change. The language becomes hopeful again. But the man does not. You already know this. No explanation is needed. You have lived it. You have stood at the edge of New Year's carrying the same weaknesses, the same fears, the same unfinished intentions. You have felt the private shame of recognizing patterns you promised yourself would end, yet continued. Not because you could not change, but because you did not decide to. The world tells you that time will fix this. That motivation will eventually arrive. That luck will turn in your favor. That the right moment is approaching. These are lies spoken gently so they sound merciful. Time does not change men. It only reveals them. Motivation does not transform character. It abandons it. Luck does not reward hesitation. It ignores it. And the right moment never announces itself. It obeys only those who move. Most people live the same year 30 times and call it a lifetime. And if nothing changes within you today, you will do the same. Here is the harsh truth that few are willing to accept, and even fewer are willing to live by. Nothing in your life will change until you decide that it must. Not until you understand more. Not until circumstances improve. Not until fear disappears. Until you decide. A wish has no authority. Hope carries no weight. A plan means nothing without obedience. Decision is different. Decision ends debate. Decision removes alternatives. Most people never decide. They circle, they consider, they prepare endlessly. They remain in motion while standing still. Time will pass whether you rise or decay. It is indifferent to your effort and unmoved by your regret. It will move forward with equal commitment while you hesitate, while you postpone, while you tell yourself tomorrow will be clearer. Motivation will vanish the moment resistance appears. It always does. The first obstacle, the first discomfort, the first moment of doubt. And motivation leaves without apology. Men who depend on it surrender the moment the path becomes heavy. Luck will favor those already moving. It does not visit the hesitant. It does not reward intention. It aligns itself with action already in motion, with men who have committed and therefore created momentum. Resolutions collapse because they are not commands. They are suggestions you make to yourself while secretly allowing the option to disobey. They fail because they were never final. You have tried effort without authority. You worked, but you did not rule yourself. You tried discipline without identity. You acted for a while, but you did not become. You tried goals without obedience. You set targets, but you did not enforce them. And so the old patterns returned. They always do, because habits are loyal to identity, not intention. They follow who you believe you are, not what you momentarily desire. This is why progress felt temporary. This is why change never lasted. This is why every new beginning slowly resembled the old ending. The same man cannot create a different life. He will rebuild the same structure with different language. He will repeat the same outcomes under new excuses. Until the inner authority changes, the outer world obeys the old command. Life does not respond to effort alone. It responds to decision backed by identity. And without that decision, final, absolute, and enforced, nothing changes. Every true beginning demands a death, not a symbolic change, not a slight correction, not a polished version of the same man pretending to be new. A death, because what you are attempting to enter cannot be occupied by who you have been. A new life does not accept old habits as guests. A higher standard does not negotiate with familiar weakness. The old identity must be buried, completely, quietly, without ceremony or apology, not negotiated with, not reasoned with, not given one last opportunity to prove it will behave differently this time. It has already spoken. Its results are your evidence. That former version of you, the one that delays when action is required, that doubts when certainty is demanded, that explains when silence would be stronger, that justifies failure instead of ending it, that waits for permission that will never arrive, must be placed in the ground and left there. You do not carry it forward. You do not consult it. You do not allow it a vote. You cannot place a crown on a man who still kneels to his habits. You cannot speak of power while remaining obedient to impulses you claim to despise. You cannot sit on a throne while dragging chains forged by yesterday's excuses. A ruler cannot be led by his shadow. Power requires separation. Authority requires finality. The old self will resist this burial. It always does. It will beg softly at first, disguising fear as caution. It will reason with logic that sounds responsible. It will promise that change can happen later, when conditions are better, when clarity is greater, when risk feels smaller. Do not listen. That voice has spoken before. It has delayed you before. It has cost you years already. Every time you allowed it to step forward, you paid with time you cannot recover. Every compromise extended its life. Every second chance strengthened its grip. This is why the separation must be absolute. There is no reforming the old self. There is no training it into obedience. There is only release or rule by it. This moment is not about improvement. It is about succession. One identity must step down permanently so another can rule without interference. There can be no shared power, no divided authority. This is a funeral, not a negotiation. Now stop. Do not move forward yet. Do not reach for the future. Turn your attention backward, but do it without emotion. No guilt, no self-pity, no defense. Look back as a judge would, not as a victim. How many times did you know exactly what to do and delayed? Not because you were confused, not because you lacked information, but because delay felt safer than decision. How many times did fear disguise itself as patience? It told you to wait, to observe, to be careful. And you called that wisdom. How many times did comfort pretend to be intelligence? It whispered that staying where you were was reasonable. That disruption could wait. That consistency mattered more than courage. How many times did you wait for clarity that only action provides? You stood still, asking for certainty. While certainty was waiting on the other side of movement, you felt the call, not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, persistently. You felt the urgency in moments of silence, in late hours, in the spaces where distractions faded and truth approached. And when it did, you silenced it. You postponed. You promised yourself you would return to it later. Why? Was it lack of intelligence? No. You understood enough. Was it lack of opportunity? No. You had access, time, and possibility. It was lack of decision. Decision is the line most men never cross. They approach it. They study it. They stand near it. But they do not step over. Ask yourself again, slowly, deliberately, why did you not act when you knew you should? Do not answer quickly. Quick answers protect the ego. Let the question remain. Ask it again. Why did you hesitate when the path was clear? Why did you negotiate with fear instead of ending the conversation? Why did you allow delay to feel responsible? Do not speak the answer out loud. Words soften truth. Answer with awareness, with recognition, with stillness. Because once you see the pattern without excuse, you are no longer unconscious. And what you see clearly, you are now responsible for changing. Life does not change by chance. It never has. What appears accidental is only law misunderstood. Outcomes repeat because causes repeat. Circumstances follow patterns because men do. And until the inner cause changes, the outer result remains the same. Life changes by law. And the law is this: when a man issues a clear, final, inner decree and obeys it without argument, life reorganizes around that command, not because the world becomes kind, not because obstacles disappear, but because direction replaces confusion and authority replaces hesitation. Most people scatter their energy across many desires. They collect goals the way others collect opinions. Nothing is enforced. Everything is optional. This is why nothing holds. Not multiple goals, not fragmented intentions, not a long list of things you might pursue if conditions improve. One decision, so clear that doubt has no room to speak, so final that debate becomes impossible, so precise that the mind no longer wanders. This is what Napoleon Hill called definiteness of purpose, and most misunderstand it. It is not wanting something badly. Desire is weak without command. It rises and falls with emotion. Definiteness is authority. It is the moment a man stops negotiating with himself, the moment he chooses a direction and closes all others, the moment his mind stops asking and starts obeying. You are not asking life for permission. You are not waiting for approval. You are not explaining yourself to the world. You are issuing an order to yourself. And the mind responds to authority when it is absolute. It aligns thoughts. It filters distractions. It redirects energy without force. Once the inner authority is established, obedience follows, not through effort, but through identity. Action becomes natural. Resistance weakens. Confusion fades. Life responds differently to a man who has decided. People respond differently. Opportunities rearrange themselves not by magic, but by momentum, because certainty creates movement, and movement creates outcomes. This is the unseen power behind every great transformation. Not luck, not chance, not motivation. Law, and once invoked, it does not reverse itself. A man who decides and obeys his decision will always outpace the man who waits for certainty. Always. Here is the decree. Listen carefully, not with emotion, not with hope, with attention. Do not decorate it with ambition. Do not soften it with comfort. Do not dilute it with explanation. A decree loses power the moment it invites discussion. This is not a statement meant to inspire you. It is meant to bind you. From this moment forward, I act as the man I have decided to be, without delay, without excuse, and without retreat. And nothing more is required. Nothing more is permitted. There is no timeline because authority does not wait. There is no bargaining because command does not negotiate. There are no emotional conditions because discipline does not depend on mood. This decree does not ask how you feel. It does not inquire about confidence. It does not pause for fear. It begins now. Understand what this means. You are not promising future effort. You are declaring present identity. You are not hoping to become. You are choosing to be. Every time a decision appears, this decree answers it. Every moment hesitation arises, this decree overrides it. Every excuse that attempts to speak is denied permission. Repeat it until it feels inevitable, not emotional. Inevitable. Repeat it until hesitation feels unnatural, like standing still in the middle of a moving road. Repeat it until action becomes the default response, not the struggle. Repeat it until belief no longer requires reinforcement because it has become instinct. This repetition is not ritual. It is conditioning. The mind obeys what it hears consistently spoken with authority. It aligns itself with commands that are repeated without contradiction. Do not shout this decree. Do not perform it. Speak it quietly as laws are written, and then enforce it. A decree without enforcement is noise. Authority is proven through obedience to oneself. When you act according to this command, you reinforce it. When you hesitate, you weaken it. There is no middle ground. This is not affirmation. Affirmation soothes doubt. This removes it. This is command. And a man who commands himself will never again be ruled by delay. But a decree cannot survive in a polluted mind. No command endures where disorder is allowed to speak freely. You must purify your inner world. Not gradually, not gently, but deliberately. The mind is a place of influence. Whatever is permitted to remain there shapes behavior. Whatever is repeated there becomes law. Doubt must be silenced, not debated. Debate gives it legitimacy. Debate assumes it has authority. It does not. Doubt is not a question seeking truth. It is resistance seeking delay. Fear must be recognized as noise, not guidance. Fear speaks loudly but sees poorly. It reacts, exaggerates, and distorts. It has no capacity to lead. Old inner conversations must be dismissed without response. The explanations you once used to protect inaction, the stories you told yourself to justify delay, the familiar voices that question your resolve, these do not deserve engagement. You do not argue with weakness. You outgrow it. Arguing keeps you at the same level. Growth leaves it behind. Guard your thoughts as you would guard the gate of a fortress. A fortress does not debate with intruders. It does not reason with enemies. It denies entry. Not every voice is allowed access to your attention. Not every feeling deserves recognition. Feelings rise and fall without commitment to truth. Attention must be earned. Silence becomes your first discipline. In silence, you notice what attempts to control you. In silence, you recognize patterns. In silence, authority returns to its rightful place. When inner dialogue is uncontrolled, direction fragments, energy scatters, resolve weakens. When inner dialogue is disciplined, movement becomes precise. Action sharpens. Resistance loses ground. Control your inner dialogue and you control your direction, not by force, but by selection. You decide what is allowed to speak. You decide what is ignored. You decide which thoughts are commands and which are dismissed. This is purification. It is not emotional. It is structural, and it is required, because a man cannot rule his actions if he does not first rule his mind. Discipline does not begin with effort. It begins with silence. And in that silence, authority is restored. History is not moved by crowds. Crowds follow. They react. They echo what has already been decided elsewhere. History is moved by men who decided, not men who waited for agreement, not men who searched for reassurance, men who reached a point where decision replaced hesitation. And from that moment forward, their path narrowed. Thomas Edison did not experiment endlessly in confusion. He resolved. Once his decision was made, failure became irrelevant. Each attempt was not doubt. It was enforcement. He did not ask whether the light would exist. He decided that it would, and aligned himself completely with that outcome. Henry Ford did not ask permission from experts who told him it could not be done. He did not wait for approval from systems designed to protect the old way. He persisted with authority. He acted as if the future had already agreed with him. And eventually, it did. Andrew Carnegie did not wait for confidence to arrive before acting. Confidence is born from motion, not contemplation. He acted into certainty. Each step forward eliminated uncertainty behind it. He did not feel powerful first. He became powerful by deciding to move. Abraham Lincoln did not feel ready. No man ever is when history calls. He stood anyway. Under pressure that would crush lesser men, he remained anchored to his decision. Not because he was fearless, but because retreat was not an option he allowed himself to consider. These men were not without fear. They were not untouched by doubt, but fear was not permitted to vote. Doubt was not allowed to lead. They were decisive. Napoleon Hill did not discover success by accident or inspiration. He observed it with discipline and precision. Across industries, across eras, across men of wealth and power, one pattern repeated itself without exception. Every great fortune, every lasting achievement, every life that reshaped its environment, each was preceded by a moment of irrevocable decision. Not a preference, not a hope. A decision so final that the mind aligned itself automatically. Once that decision was made, retreat was not debated. Failure was not personalized. Obstacles became details, not deterrents. History does not remember those who tried. It records those who decided and obeyed that decision without retreat. And when this shift happens within you, others will sense it before you speak a word. You will not announce it. You will not explain what has changed. Explanation is the habit of uncertainty, and you will no longer live there. There will be no need to convince anyone, no need to defend your direction, no need to seek agreement. Change rooted in decision carries its own weight. Your voice will slow, not because you are cautious, but because urgency has been replaced by certainty. You will no longer race to be heard. You will speak when it is necessary and stop when it is complete. Your words will reduce. You will not fill silence to ease discomfort. You will not over-explain to gain understanding. Precision will replace excess. Your actions will become exact, not dramatic, not rushed. Each movement will serve a purpose, and unnecessary motion will fall away. You will no longer seek approval. Approval is irrelevant to a man who has already decided. You will no longer rush, because speed is no substitute for direction. You will no longer justify, because justification belongs to those who are unsure. Authority does not speak loudly. It does not persuade. It does not perform. Authority stands still. It occupies space without needing to announce itself. It listens more than it speaks. It moves only when movement is required. Others will feel this change without understanding it. They will sense firmness where there was once flexibility, calm where there was once noise, resolve where there was once explanation. Some will be unsettled by it. Certainty exposes indecision in others. Your silence will challenge their excess. Your restraint will highlight their disorder. You will not respond to this. Response implies engagement. You will remain as you are. This is how inner authority expresses itself outwardly, not through dominance, but through presence. Not through aggression, but through consistency. People recognize it instinctively because they recognize its absence in themselves. You will not need to tell them you have changed. Your behavior will speak in a language older than words. And long before they understand what has shifted, they will already know that it has. Understand this final law. It does not bend. It does not negotiate. It does not respond to intention or desire. Destiny does not respond to wishes. Wishes are weightless. They carry no authority and demand no obedience. Destiny responds to command, and command is not emotional. Emotion rises and falls. Emotion swells in moments and disappears under pressure. Command comes from decision. Decision is quiet, final, unmoving. It is the moment alternatives are removed. The moment retreat is no longer discussed. The moment the mind stops asking and begins enforcing. This is how direction is set, not through excitement, but through authority. 30 minutes of absolute inner authority. 30 minutes without negotiation, without distraction, without escape, can redirect the next 30 years of your life. Not because the world changes in those 30 minutes, but because you do. In that moment, identity shifts. Standards are raised. The inner ruler takes the throne. From that point forward, time obeys direction. Opportunities align with certainty. Resistance reveals itself and is overcome through consistency. But this law is precise. It works only if you obey the man you decide to become, not the man you feel like being, not the man circumstances allow you to be, the man you decide to be and enforce through action. Obedience to self is rare. Most men obey impulse, habit, or fear. Few obey decision. This is not inspiration. Inspiration fades. This does not. This is a verdict. A verdict does not motivate, it concludes. From this moment forward, the responsibility is clear. The direction is set. The authority has been issued. You will live the life you command, or you will live the life your hesitation allows. There is no third option.